Okay, everyone, I think we'll go on and start the meeting. We're going to start the meeting and go through those reports which are for Nalgene. And obviously, as soon as George gets here, we'll report and go back to those items that we need decisions on. So we're starting with any apologies for absence, Wendy.
Yes, Chair, we have apologies from Councillor Clark, Councillor of Wheels, Councillor Slay, Councillor Statham and Councillor Thompson. And we have Councillor Grinsell here for Councillor Slay. And hopefully we'll also have Councillor Dublin coming today. Councillor of Wheels, but we're in Cora currently, thank you.
And I also give my apologies for being late. I've tried transport for West Midlands. It
is cold.
Not as they come.
Come by public transport.
Right, item 2, declarations of interest. Thank you very much. We can't take the minutes as we're in quorum. So we get on to the investment programme update, please. Item 5.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. So funding commitment as at the end of August unchanged at 848.4 million, and that's versus the unchanged total available of 871 million as approved by the CA board. That limit's fully utilised with earmark contributions approved by the CA board. Costs incurred, the drawings to 31st of August were 647.3 million, that's unchanged from the previous month. Since the last board meeting, there's not exercised delegated powers. Okay, yeah, so if it approved 3 business cases plus. The update on the interim gateway review is unfortunately there isn't really too much of one. We're still in discussions with CLG, and we're still trying to work through what they're going to require on the gateway review. The local evaluation framework is a key document we're currently seeking guidance and feedback on. We move on to the investment dashboard as and when you're.
Any questions on anything that is next? Nice. Move on to the investment programme dashboard then, please.
Yeah, so you'll see on the dashboard there's 84 projects recorded to funding. I've got 30 projects. There's no change in that at the reach completion stage, and those going through their closing down evaluation, gathering the information on that. We have got red status on 21 of the projects. So we've got 54 live projects. Those that are completed 21 projects got red status. It's improved by 1 on the previous month. They're all related to extensions in time. So basically completion date. The 14 red rated projects for SMBCs, Solihull under UKC infrastructure were subject to a change request. Some information has been received, but as Chair has requested, I've asked Solihull to present here, so they're aware of it, to provide an update on those projects, following which hopefully we should be able to process the change request.
So when are they proposed to come back to the board's chair? Just so I can chase up when I go back to
The chair gave 3 months, so this is the first session, so it's either next session or the session afterwards.
Okay, I'll make sure that's done.
There are 5 red rated projects listed in Coventry. We are chasing and have spoken to Coventry Section 151 officer I think actually it was related to a road extension on the same project. It really shouldn't be hard to give an update on that. I think they're delayed because of planning reasons, changed plan and confirmation of further funding from DFT, but we do need to see that update of the request so we can approve any extension time and understand where we are on that project, but we're chasing on Coventry. And then there's two TFWM projects. So that's been reducing the forecast to exceed their authorised completion dates, and change requests have been sought, but those should be forthcoming.
Thank you, Ian. I was just wondering whether we could put some dates against this so that there's an end stop, if you know what I mean. So if we said November for all three, in relation to getting information back, or are you expecting information before then?
But certainly, I think because the soil ones are they're not kind of paused at an early stage, they're kind of mid-flow in delivery, so kind of understanding those coming back and being presented will give everybody a good idea about where they sit and what they're achieving. It might be, and perhaps Chair, I could suggest a review with you Coventry ones, because if it is simply a matter of this project is completely and totally unchanged, but it's awaiting planning, and therefore then that might not be something of terribly great interest. And I think certainly one of the TFWM projects is rather small. But perhaps I could review those with you about necessity or the date to come back.
Fair enough.
And then happy to, if your decision is that they should be heard here, then that's absolutely fine. But they might be rather minor matters.
Yeah. Are you okay with that, George, for the Coventry project?
I don't know, to be perfectly honest, I can't decide whether there's any timescales or not, Peter, so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's best to work through Barry Hasty on that, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, yes, we are.
And I've not talked to Barry about it, by the way. So, yeah.
No problem.
Okay, Pete, thank you.
Okay, so we do have some decisions to make. If nobody has any other questions on that report, yeah. So can we take the decisions as recommended here as approved, please? Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Thank you very much. Thank you. In that case, we'll go back to item 3, which is the minutes of the 19th of August. Does everybody accept them as a true record? There's just one
I
person
was
here.
going to say, there's not many of us who were at the meeting,
Yeah,
so
so-
anybody who was at the meeting, are you happy
Yeah,
with that?
yeah. Okay. So we accept those as a true record then, thank you. And then we go on to item 5, which is the update on the City Region Sustainable Transport Settlement. Sandy.
Thank you, Chair. So this is one of the regular quarterly reports that we bring through to the Investment Board, and it's just to update on key events and progress since the last paper board here, and also to set out some of the requirements around monitoring and evaluation of the CRSTS programme. As the board is well aware, the key objectives around the CRSTS programme is around driving growth and productivity, decarbonising transport and levelling up services and areas. The West Midlands CRSTS programme consists of some 50 projects and programmes, totalling an investment of over £1 billion in transport improvements. So that includes a government grant of £1.05 billion, along with £120 million of local contribution from the combined authority and local authorities. It's also important to note that the CRSTS programme consolidates a number of previous funding and historic funding sources, including highways maintenance and integrated transport block, and provides these over a 5-year period, which runs from 2022 to 2027 for CRSTS 1. As the board will also be aware, there has been a number of proposals with the CRSTS programme to re-baseline that as we've entered into the programme in 2022 to include things like rail packages 1 and 2 and the approval of the inclusion of Dudley Interchange, which were undertaken last year. And more recently, we have been reporting some capital cost pressures, which were reported through to Combined Authority Board in July 2024. And that does lead to some further changes to the CRSTS programme. That is set out in section or tables 6.4 and 6.5 in terms of those key changes that have been proposed. Now, as a result of that discussion and approval at CA Board in July, we have submitted the necessary change control documentation to DfT because they need to approve that in due course. We've had a number of conversations with DfT around that, and whilst that is supported in terms of those proposed changes, that will be going up for ministerial approval. That is now caught up with the spending review timescales as well, so that is expected to happen at some point during October. I've noted monitoring and evaluation, so there is continuous monitoring and evaluation that happens, but also regular updates that are sought from all project leads from within the Combined Authority and our local authority colleagues. And section 7.3 just sets out that in-depth information in terms of the programme, covering aspects such as the overall progress summaries, delivery confidence assessments, programme level expenditure, details of local contributions, progress against key milestones, key risks, and progress against outputs and delivery outcomes. In terms of the work we've done so far with the Q1 reporting, there is some good progress that's been made, and that's set out in section 8 of the report. So we have 4 sub-programme business cases that have been approved, 22 strategic outline cases that have been taken through approval, 4 outline business cases have been approved, 11 full business cases stroke business justifications cases have been approved, and 13 projects have reached their delivery stages. As of the end of July 2024, nearly £600 million of CRSTS funding has been approved, and as a result of that approval, some £240 million has been expended from that original allocation of 1.05 billion. So those are sort of the headlines in terms of some of the risks that are being reported through at a programme level. Again, set out there, the key ones are inflationary pressures. We have seen a number of inflationary pressures against a number of costs, against a number of projects and programmes, which has led to some cost overruns. There has been some public objection to projects which reallocate road space or prioritise bus and active travel over cars. We do have the risk of some of the projects currently reported to finish delivery in the final year of the programme, and potential for problems with the supply chain and the disruption on the network as a result of the delivery. As established very early on, the CRSTS programme is we do have a significant number of projects which will complete right towards the end of the programme. We do have a very back-ended programme, and that is reflective of the position of a lot of those schemes being at very early stages of development when we did set that programme in 2022. I've noted the current spend to date, and whilst it is strong and stands at 240 million, just shy of 240 million pounds, it is lower than it is expected to be based on the baseline that was established in January 2023. There are some reasons for that delay. We have had delays with DfT themselves in terms of agreeing the original programme. That was a 3-month delay, which has driven some of that. We also have a significant amount of over-programming, which will hopefully help reduce the risk of the programme underspending during that initial 5-year period. The key focus at the moment is really working with all the scheme promoters to do everything that we can to bring forward delivery and try and move forward some of the back-ended delivery of that programme and try and mitigate some of those risks. And there are regular discussions that are held with all the scheme promoters as a forum to discuss some of that progress, being open and honest and having very frank conversations around where they think those spend profiles are. Alongside that, we are also looking at the end-to-end processes to make sure we are being as lean as possible in making decisions around funding to support delivery. I will leave it at that, Chair, in terms of a summary. There are some charts in the report as well, which just depicts graphically some of those key stats that I've set out, but I'm happy to take any questions or queries that the board may have.
Thank you, Sandeep, for that detailed report. Is there any questions from anyone? There's probably one.
Sorry, Chair, Councillor Grinsell.
Sorry, Councillor Gibson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to sort of check in with you around, obviously there have been changes at the Department of Transport, and obviously from a regional perspective, we wouldn't want to see any of our projects totally at risk of not happening. I just want to check that is still progressing well and we should see our projects continue. I just want to check at 8.16, you talk about, obviously we've had the rebase and the review of CRUST and CRUST 1 to move on to 2. And just wondering about the local contributions, is that potentially you're looking at, all options are being explored, but just wondering how that is going.
Thank you, Councillor Grinsell. So on the first one, we are continuing to maintain a very strong dialogue with DFT. We did host a whole day session a couple of weeks ago here with their senior team as a result of some of those changes that are happening with those key personnel at DFT. The focus really is around ensuring that we have the right level of support and timely decision making from them as and when we need that to ensure that we've got the cover we need for changes that we are making within the programme. Obviously, the timescales linked back to a new government coming into place, ministerial changes and the spending review have led to a slight delay in how some of that decision making works. But the important thing is in the recent conversations we've been having around the change controls as a result of the July board meeting, from a senior civil servant point of view, that is being supported and that recommendation is being made to ministers. It is then just around the ministerial decision making processes which are now sort of caught up within the spending review. So that covers off that part. In terms of the local contributions, as we are making changes to the programme, we do need to keep an eye on that minimum threshold that we need to provide as a local contribution, which was one of the key aspects of the memorandum of understanding with the government around the CRSTS programme. We keep that under review and we are currently undertaking just a review on where we are with all those local contributions. And obviously any future changes could impact that. But at this point in time, we are just going through that review to ensure we are meeting that minimum threshold of local contributions. And we'll seek to draw out, as you say, all options to maintain that.
Okay. So the autumn spending review could be something that we just need to keep our eye on.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well noted, Councillor Grinsell, thanks. There is one request from myself. I mean, on page 51, we have the RAG status of the project. We're actually coming up to the halfway stage, and that there are 7% which are classed as red risk, and I think we perhaps need some more detail relating to those at least, or anything which is amber and possibly falling into the red.
Yep.
So could we have more detail reported back perhaps to the next meeting, please?
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Yes, one of the things that we are doing within the Delivery Directorate and the Transport Portfolio Office is providing far more granular reporting and detail. So that is happening across all programmes and all transport portfolios, not just CRSTS. And that is the basis of some of the reporting that we also bring back to the Transport Delivery and Overview Scrutiny Committee on a regular basis. So that information will be there. That will be the reporting for this will be transitioning into that overall programme level portfolio reporting, which can provide that level of granularity. There is an awful lot of detail that sits behind the reporting as it is. Obviously, this is a summary, but yes, that detail can be provided in due course.
Thank you. So, will that be the next meeting? Or
It will be in line with the next quarterly reporting that comes forward.
and when's that?
So the last quarter was end of July, so it should be in January now, in terms of when we get into the reporting cycle. Towards the end of the year, I need to check the
You
exact
can't, you
dates.
can't report back on the July situation.
No, so this covers up to the end of July. This report does at the moment.
In terms of getting more detail on the projects themselves.
Oh, in terms of providing that in between, I will check with the Transport Portfolio Office because we're just transitioning the reporting arrangements through that process at the moment.
Well, that report's just for noting. I presume everybody's happy with it. Yeah. Okay, we move on to item 6, which is the dashboards. Nick.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So items 6, 7 and 8 are the public information dashboards for the investment funds managed by West Midlands Development Capital. These are for noting. I will provide a full update on the private session unless there are any questions on the public information dashboards.
Any questions at this point? No. Okay, if we go on to item, well, we note those in the public section then. We move on to agenda item 9, which is the exclusion of press public. If I could just read out the statement. In accordance with section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, the public and press be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business, as they're likely to involve the disclosure of exempt information as specified in the paragraphs of the Act. That one, private.